Nice to meet all of you, and welcome. Welcome to 7 Habits of Highly Successful Supervisors. So happy that you have decided to join. Dave mentioned that I have over 25 years of experience. What he didn't mention is that I started as an infant, so I'm not, so yeah, it's with 25 years of experience. Actually, you know, I'm sure you've heard it before. People join companies because of the company's mission, vision, values, industry impact, all of these reasons that people join, but far too often they leave the company, especially the good people, they leave the company because of a direct supervisor. I want to welcome you to this session where we're going to spend for the next 90 minutes, we'll spend some time considering the 7 habits that can drive supervisors, managers, and leaders to better engage their employees and to achieve success. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. We're going to start out with just a bit of an overview to get you prepared for what for the rest of our time together. So, excuse me, you saw this on the website, the objectives. We're going to think about, you know, what does it mean to be outcome-oriented, just having an outcome-oriented mindset in all that we're doing. How are we going to focus on the right priorities? How are we going to make sure that we're leading in a way that motivates our team so that they're ready to follow through, that they're ready to be accountable? How do we create an atmosphere where we can give and receive really good feedback and understand the issues that are drivers within the organization? And how do we lead problem solving? So we're going to spend some time on all of these items over the next 90 minutes. Here's how we're going to do it. Here is our agenda. We're going to spend a little bit of time just looking at why. Why do we care about being a great supervisor? What does it bring to the table for the organization? How does it impact the company if they have great supervisors? And then we're going to look at these 7 habits. So the first habit is really being crystal clear about your role and the role of your team. How does my team contribute to the success of the business? Habit number 2 is focusing relentlessly on results, and we'll have some ideas and some tools around that. Habit number 3 is building relationships throughout the organization. We'll talk about some ways that we can do that. Habit number 4 is giving and seeking feedback. How do I find out where my blind spots are? How do I make sure that my team knows how they're doing at all times? Habit number 5 is managing performance. Number 6, it's about developing your team and yourself. Number 7, how do I confront tough issues within the organization, tough issues on my team? These 7 habits are very powerful habits that can really drive success. And then we'll close out this conversation in this session. So I just want to think first, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and use the chat box. The chat box, you can click at the top ribbon there towards the right. There's a place where you can click on the chat, and it will open up the chat panel for you. I'm going to ask you to answer this question in the chat box. I want you to think of a time when you worked with a leader, either at work or otherwise. So it could be, you know, in the community, a sports team, your church. You worked with a leader who motivated you to go well above and beyond what was expected. Go ahead and type your thoughts there in the chat box. Tim, I see you have your hands up. Dave, can we bring Tim in so he has his hand up. Can we respond to him, Tim? Dave?
Hello, Melanie.
And I think that's fine. You can drop your thoughts into the question and answer box. And I see we have one response here that he made me feel important, made it fun, complimented me often. So one of the participants had a boss who did those things and really motivated him to go above and beyond. So if you have some thoughts, go ahead and drop those into the chat box. Okay, I have another one that put hers in here, and she said she had a manager many years ago who would regularly give compliments and actually pat me on the back. So again, we have a little bit of a theme going here where compliments are helpful. A pat on the back makes a big difference. So thank you for those who were able to find that chat box and be able to respond to that question. So, you know, it's important. We recognize that it is important to be here, to be a good supervisor. You have plenty of things you could be doing with your time, but you decided to spend this 90 minutes in this webinar, and there's a reason for it because you know how important it is to be a strong supervisor. So what difference does it make? Well, great supervisors, they have a huge impact on the organization and on their team. So one of the things that they do is drive employee engagement. There's lots of studies out there, and we're gonna unpack this a little bit more, but lots of studies out there that correlate great supervision, great leaders with employee engagement. And I'm going to share some data around that in just a few minutes. There's also data that says that great supervisors also reduce turnover. Having been in human resources for so long and having been the person who facilitates or conducts exit interviews, it's so often that a person is leaving the organization. You know, you do exit interviews with people that you wish they would have stayed, and so often there's such a big impact on that person based on the supervisor. So reducing turnover is another thing that great supervisors do. They also drive performance. You shared it. Some of the folks that responded in the chat box talked about how, you know, the manager made them feel better. And, you know, the question was around how did it was a situation where you went above and beyond. And so good supervision drives employee performance. It also improves customer satisfaction. There are studies out there that correlate the supervision, good supervision, and people being happy with their boss to the way they treat customers. They also, the team, great supervisors have a more loyal team. The teams respond better to them, and they tend to be happier at work and have happier teams as well. So let's dig in just a little bit. We talked about how good supervisors, great supervisors drive employee engagement. What do we mean when we say employee engagement? Well, employees, here's a few kind of best practices answers to that question. Towers-Perrin defines it as employees' willingness and ability to contribute to company success. We all want our employees to contribute to company success. Hewitt defines it as staff commitment and a sense of belonging to the organization. Mercer says it's employees' commitment to the organization and motivation to contribute to the success. Hayes says it's employees' willingness to go beyond meeting the minimum standards of the job. We all want that. Best Practices LLC says it's about creating a sense that individuals are a part of a greater entity. And the Harvard Business Review says engagement represents the energy, effort, and initiative that employees bring to their jobs. So if we pull all that together, here's a definition that I think works pretty well. It is the emotional commitment the employee has to the organization and its goals. This emotional commitment means engaged employees actually care about their work and their company. They don't just work for a paycheck or just for the next promotion, but they work on behalf of the organization's goals. That's what we want. When employees care, they are engaged, and they use discretionary effort. They go above and beyond. They do more, better than what is required by the job. And, of course, that's what we want. But there's some reasons why employee engagement matters, even beyond the discretionary effort in and of itself. Employee engagement actually drives business results. According to the Corporate Executive Board, engaged employees outperform average employees by 20%. 20%, that's a huge amount. According to a Gallup poll last year, only 32%, they found only 32% actually actively engaged in their jobs, 51% not engaged, 17% actively disengaged. What's the difference between those three? Well, someone who is actively engaged, that's the one that comes in early, does more than you ask, faster than you ask, better than you ask, and delivers the best possible quality. That's the one that comes back and says, hey, boss, what else do you need me to do? And you don't mind giving them more because they're going to do a great job and you know it. That's the actively engaged employee. We also have some employees that are not engaged. Those who are not engaged, they come in, they do their job, they leave. They come in, they do their job, they leave. Can you do something extra? Don't really have time. Can you come in a little early? Well, am I going to get paid for it? The person who's not engaged, you know, they're going to get the job done, but, you know, just put in the minimum to do it. Those who are actively disengaged, 17% are actively disengaged. Well, guess what? The actively disengaged person is the one that does the bare minimum or less. The actively disengaged person is the one who is, you know, you ask them to do something several times before it gets done, if it gets done. The actively disengaged person is the one that's actually in the break room talking about their boss. Oh, my goodness, I just can't stand this boss. He's horrible. I can't stand her. She's, you know, she's terrible. The actively disengaged one is the one that's out outside the company, really trashing the company. Still there, but not really caring about the image of the company or the company's goals. Unfortunately, 17% of employees were found to be actively disengaged. 32% is pretty low when we think about the numbers that are actively engaged. So when we think about we as leaders, we can make an impact on these engagement numbers. Companies with engaged employees,